When Bulletstorm came out on PlayStation 3 and 360 back in 2011, I don't think I could have been any less interested. I mean, this was the year of Dead Space 2, Uncharted 3, Fear 3, Arkham City, Skyrim, and one of my favorites, Dead Island. So it was easy to dismiss Bulletstorm with its pretty generic name as yet another generic first-person shooter. But here we are a full 13 years later, and I'm happy to report that I finally played it, and in VR no less. I'm not happy to report, however, that this version is really, really disappointing.
Shooting? I can't tell!
Bulletstorm opens up by introducing us to some of the broiest dudes in gaming. Zero personality outside of being loud and angry, which makes all the cutscenes and story segments almost intolerable. And you've got to love this warning the game starts with, that the same ethnic, gender, and racially insensitive dialogue is still the same as it was in 2011. Confirming that these characters have been irredeemable for literally 13 years now.
You prancing ballerinas comfortable?
I mean, thanks for the warning, but if you're shocked that these guys don't care about your pronouns, what are you, fucking new? I just wish they could have made up for it with a decent story. I don't know, maybe it gets better. But by the 2-hour mark, I was skipping cutscenes with reckless abandon. The stereoscopic 3D effect they retrofitted into these old 2D cutscenes looks exactly like they tried to retrofit a 3D effect into these old cutscenes. It really just doesn't look that good at all. But hey, Bulletstorm's a mindless first-person shooter, so who cares about the story here, right? Well, unfortunately, the gameplay's pretty boring too. There's no reason to explore, although I guess there is. I just didn't realize they were even collectibles until like the last hour of the game. No objectives other than kill everything that moves, and the only thing that makes it stand out from a deluge of similar titles is a superpower called Leash that lets you grab items and enemies from across the environment. You can attach your lasso onto them, and with a flick of the sense controller, you pull them out of cover and through walls, making it pretty OP, leaving them suspended in midair for you to do your worst. And at first, this is pretty cool, but after a while, it just feels cheap. I only died a few times on the medium difficulty, and most of that was from just being dumb and running out into the middle of the battlefield. As long as you take cover occasionally and let your health regenerate, you're usually able to take down enemies one by one at your leisure. Now, I've been told that maybe I'm missing the point of Bulletstorm, that it's not about taking cover and playing it safe, it's about running in and killing enemies in creative ways by using the leash in conjunction with your weapons. And man, if that's the case, then this VR port really missed the mark. They never introduced this concept as anything other than a bonus. Enemies don't react to getting shot, other than their head disappearing or body slicing in half to denote they've been killed. And the XP you get from killing enemies in pretty normal ways is more than enough to max out all your weapon upgrades by the halfway point. It's like when Super Mario Bros. Came out and still had a point system, which was a carryover from the arcade days. Like, it's there, but who cares? And while the weapons are big and brutal, I wouldn't exactly call them fun to use. The one exception being the sniper rifle, that lets you take control of the bullet in slow motion by moving your head just before it hits the enemy. Now, this is hilarious, because every enemy, every time, sees the bullet, and comically, tries to dive out of the way at the last second.
All right, let's get out of here.
There's a new playable character in this version, Trishka Nova, and if you thought the leash was OP, then just wait till you see Trishka's energy blades. With one slice, you can take down pretty much any enemy with a one-hit kill. And sure, the variety is nice, I guess, but come on, none of this is any fun. The sound effects on the energy blades are always bugging out, and regardless of which character you're playing as, you're just running through the environments, only taking cover when absolutely necessary, killing everything in sight until the credits roll just 5 hours later. It's absolutely soulless. There are a few moments here that make me realize how fun this game could have been with a little bit more work, but unfortunately the developers think that we're fucking morons. They tell you when to use the leash, what barricades can be kicked, and how to use a lever every single time you encounter one for the entire game, making it feel like a 5-hour tutorial. I was trying to figure out what the appeal of the original game was. I talked to a lot of people, meaning AJ, and he said that the action was really visceral, and it was a really good looking game for the time. And checking out some videos from the PS3 era was really, really eye-opening, proving that it just wasn't adapted all that well to VR. I mean, look at this. Not only are the graphics and effects stunning, but this gameplay, this looks intense and fun, and it switches between the action and cutscenes seamlessly, whereas in VR the screen fades to black constantly to switch over to 2D cutscenes or just to load the next area. The resolution looks like a PSVR1 game, and the reprojection only serves to highlight the low frame rate. And I'm pretty sure this whole section is just an MP4 plastered up in the background. If you're not convinced this wasn't a rush job, there's various bugs here ranging from insane tracking issues to enemies being hidden in the environment keeping you from progressing. Even the menus are a joke. Half the time they're broken and unusable, and even when they do work, they ignore your requests. I had to quit the game and restart just to turn off subtitles.
Here I come!
After Green Hell VR launched with a less than impressive resolution, I don't think anyone should be too surprised by how Bulletstorm VR looks. The surprising part is how they managed to take an FPS with a great reputation for non-stop action, go on to add content, new weapons, and even a new playable character, and somehow made it boring. I used to say that VR makes everything better, but today, we found an exception to that rule.
Me over to her. She won't be tracking me for much longer. Look out, look out! I thought you said you knew how to pilot this thing!